Hi, good afternoon. Welcome back to my channel. I'm doing the property investing and selling issues on the topic. This afternoon is foreigners buying into Malaysia. So there are some changes with the government announcement of MM2H, the new revamped MM2H. So let us begin. Good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon's topic on foreigners on MM2H mainly. I'm Thomas Sim, PEA 2066, and today is 18th of August 2021. Right, just overall view of our different topics. First is we started with the shelter on covering the basic and also the usual sales and purchase, buyer, developer, and lawyer. After that, we went to an intermediary dealing as an agent and banker, and also we completed the left side under the block under investing under government portfolio, tenant, and landlord. We are now moving to the last part already. Before we do that, we do a portion a little bit on foreigners before we go into business aspect of estate agency and platforms. Right? Can a foreigner buy a real estate? That means this is quite a question that is thrown to a lot of people. Can a foreigner of Malaysia, I mean you are from another country, you come to Malaysia, can you buy a property? So right now, going back to the land law, we have to always respect that land is a state matter. Land is a state matter. So it depends on which state you are there. So if you are in the state of Selangor, there is a state Selangor land law. If you are in Sarawak, then there is a land court of Sarawak, Sarawak land court. So it depends on what is the local land court that governs this matter. So if you look at the land court, you will find that, in fact, the term foreigner to the state land law may not mean that he is a foreign citizen. So in some aspect, the foreigner context in some more smaller interpretation or myopic interpretation is when the person is not the citizen of that state. When the person is not a inhabitant of that state, it is considered a foreigner. So if you are West Malaysian coming to Sarawak and you want to buy Sarawak agricultural land, you are not a Sarawakian, you are considered foreigner. No, you cannot buy Sarawak agricultural land. So is that wrong or right? As in the state control of the whether you are Sarawakian or you are a Malaysian citizen, that is up to the state So there are reasons behind it, depending on the state law that governs the state land. So like Malaysian Chinese, if you are a Chinese non-Bumiputra in Sarawak, you can never buy a native land. You can only buy mixed zone land. Mixed zone land can be agricultural land, can be industrial land, or can be a normal land for building. That one we have gone through under the different chapter. You can go to the different chapter which I have gone through, purchaser or under basics in the land court. Right, so can a foreigner own a property in Malaysia? Yes. The answer is yes, depending on the local land law. So the MM2H also implemented by different state. Although we have a MM2H for Malaysia, the MM2H for individual state has their individual requirement. And normally a state would have a jurisdiction or its solidarity to decide on this, because the land law is the state to govern. It's not for the federal to look at the land law in the state. So many state land courts actually controls their own state MM2H program. So later on I would share with you some of the Sarawak MM2H program. General restrictions. Purpose of having all these restrictions in the land law is indeed to preserve and protect the natives and the locals. Like in the case of Sarawak, it's the native Sarawakians. In the case of Malaysia, it's the Malays and the West Malaysia, of course, the Orang Asli, and then the Malay Bumi Putra, they call it the Malay Reserve, Native Reserve, and in Sarawak is the NCR, native land, which is given under the NCR. Land usually classified under two big categories. One is the residential use, another one is the non-residential use. So a lot of time for housing, because it's residential use, it doesn't really compete with the local people. So in that scenario, it's a bit more relaxed and allow foreigner to own. But for those types of big plantation land, industrial land, definitely foreigner cannot own the land because they need to protect, the government need to protect local industry, government need to protect local agriculture smallholders. Right, for strata properties, because you can build up, so there is not much of involved with term of big plots of land being bought by foreigners. So therefore, strata properties are usually more relaxed again, being more relaxed than landed properties. So landed properties, especially agriculture and industrial land, definitely is very stringent control for purpose of infrastructure, as well as for the purpose of long-term government policy to protect the local cultivators and local manufacturers. For the residential use, because it's for a roof on top, so they usually relaxed on that part. But even more relaxed is the strata properties, because it is building up, and you need sometimes even foreigners to come in to pump into this economy locally. So they usually do not stop foreigners from buying strata properties. MM2H in Malaysia, my second home programs, indeed started 2002 in where a big way of encouraging foreigners to come to Malaysia, especially from the Middle East country. The opening of Malaysia to Middle East country, more liberated type of Middle East country with money, because the oil producing countries to come in and pump in money to Malaysia. And at the rate that it was growing, indeed, over time, a lot of Middle East Eastern people came to Malaysia, and a lot of them also followed through with the education. A lot of local expansion of private universities, and they come in for this purpose of education as well as healthcare. So these are the basis of why the MM2H initially came about. But of course, as the global economy turned out to be most growth is in China and the greater Asian countries. So it ends up that in Malaysia, we are actually seeing a lot of Asians like Koreans and Japanese actually flock into buying a property in some of the states like Penang and Malacca and JB to come in to enjoy the multi-racial, multi-cultural type of retirement. So these are the types of result. Although in the initial phase, it was intended to have a result of pumping in money from the Middle East, but eventually it seems that the culture actually attracted more of the Asian types of immigrants. So we have a lot of Chinese from China buying into property in Penang and Malacca and JB, as well as Korean coming to KL. And in fact, in KL there is a Korean small village, a Korean township on its turf, as well as the Japanese. So at the end, the problem of 2020 and 2019-20 with the pandemic, so the Home Ministry and Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture stopped the MM2H program. So no more coming in, they wouldn't approve anymore, and the whole MM2H was called to a stop. This means over time there were about 60,000, 57478 people, including dependents on the MM2H program since 2002. On September 7, 2020, due to this COVID, it was banned. So no entry anymore for these people who were, even they were given the MM2H pass, they could not enter back to Malaysia. So countries are namely the United States, Brazil, India, Russia, Peru, Colombia, South Africa, Mexico, Spain, Argentina, Chile, Iran, the United Kingdom, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, France, Turkey, Italy, Germany, Iraq, and the Philippines, and in Indonesia. So the neighboring countries like Singapore, of course, we have a lot of Singaporeans who were from Malaysia before. So they were Malaysian, now they are in Singapore. They can be citizens of Singapore as long as they do not give up citizenship of Malaysia. They are still considered Malaysians, so they can buy into property in Malaysia. There are also a lot of Singaporeans who came over to JB to buy property in JB, Johor Bahru, as a foreigner. So therefore, of course, again, they have to follow the rules in that category of foreigners buying into Malaysia. So this MM2H program has been under some media spotlight. There is a reactivated in October this year, 2021. And looking at it, we have a huge revamp of this new MM2H. So the MM2H new rules will come into effect on the 1st of October 2021, a grace period of 1 year to 2022 for the existing MM2H holders to upgrade themselves. Of course, there are some, I don't think they will upgrade. They will probably leave the country. And there is a particular political sensitive area that they do not want the MM2H population to increase more than 1% of the total Malaysian population. This is very unlikely also, because 33 million of the total population of Malaysia. So 0.3 million, 0.3 million is 300,000 foreigners in Malaysia. At the moment now, we have only about 60,000. So it's not likely that you increase to 300,000 foreigners in Malaysia. Of course, this one is minus the illegals. The illegal population, they come into Malaysia to work and become illegals, like Pakistani or Bangladeshi who work in a mama store or work in a wholesale market. These are the one that more than 1 or 2 million already in the country. So there is an uncertainty still, because this revamped MM2H is of a high level of income, which probably not many will come in. So likely there is some tweaking. There's still some adjustment to do until 2022. So they are expecting changes still, high threshold, because they are putting the marks, the qualifying standard very high, high income bracket of foreigners. Right, just do a bit on this, because we are talking about new versus the old. So in new revamp, they say that if you want to become an MM2H pass holder, you have to at least stay in Malaysia for 90 days, 3 months already in Malaysia. That means you renew your social visit pass once already, and your age group has these two age group. In the old days, it's mostly for the young people to come in and do business, but the MM2H program is for the senior age, more than 50 years old. So the less than 50 years old now is more fit as to put it in writing, 35 to 49 years old. So if it's 50 and more than 50, is under the senior age, which is the old group. They have two categories. So if you are here as a MM2H pass applicant, you need to have 1 million fixed saving in the current state. Now in the current situation, no matter which group are you from, you need to have 1 million fixed saving Malaysian ringgit. Then in the old days, they have two groups. Under the 50 and above, it will be 300,000. More than 50 years old is cheaper, 150,000. So if you are young MM2H holder, you should prove that you are wealthier. Whereas the mark, the threshold for the senior is lower. So this is of course obvious, because the policy is not to encourage the young workforce come here and take away our locals' job. It's for the senior to come here and have retirement. So the situation now has gone up to 1 million. So this is difficult to have a fixed saving of 1 million in the bank. So if you want to come to Malaysia, you must show that you have 1 million ringgit Malaysian in fixed D. Second, liquid asset. If you can prove that your liquid asset is 1.5 million, so this doesn't mean that money in the bank, but also holding mutual fund, holding some company share in your own country lah. So you have to prove that you have 1.5 million equivalent ringgit Malaysia liquid asset in your possession, which means in the old days this is actually 500,000 for the younger than 50 years old and 350,000 for the senior age, the senior more than 50 years old. 350,000 for a senior age who holds a share as well as a mutual fund. This is easily accomplished, easily proven, because in their own country, if they are more than 50 years old and they have worked for many years, they should have a lot of liquid assets, owning liquid asset in their own country. So proving that they are some who are likely having received some money still as a director of a company, or they are still part-time freelancing job. Let's say they are traveling between two countries, they have still doing work, especially those who are freelancer on their own business. They have equivalent, as long as they have equivalent of 40,000 monthly income. So in the old time it's 10,000, so now increased to 40,000, which is harder lah, because if you are looking at a guy who is a computer worker, maybe getting a good salary as a director of the company, then maybe yes. But if you're looking at normal person on the street in their own country, still having an income of that much, would they still work freelance? I'm not too sure lah. If they are getting a salary like that, they probably is a heavy workload, company managerial position, having to run the company business in day in day out job. So this part not likely will come to Malaysia. If you think of that particular consequences of coming to Malaysia and still receiving offshore income of 40,000 a month. So the processing fee also increased from previously no processing fee, and now more processing fee 5,000 for applicant and 2,500 for applicant. Previously no need to pay. So pass fee yearly. So if you are MM2H pass holder, then you actually have to renew every year at the 500 ringgit. Previously only 90 lah. Visa now given only for 5 years. Last time is a one-time 10-year visa. So this part again more stringent. So looking at this more stringent MM2H situation program, the likelihood of the Malaysian housing industry selling to a foreigner would be really not as easy as before not as easy as before. But this is one thing which is in West Malaysia. If you are in Sarawak and Sabah, you can have your own local MM2H ruling, so it not necessarily follow this revamp guideline. So specific for Sarawak as a foreigner, residential landed title property is 600,000. So you can buy any landed property above 600,000 town area in Kuching or outskirts, it's about 500,000. Strata title, there is no restriction. You can buy any strata property, residential property or commercial property. And Sarawak MM2H also foreigner investing into Sarawak open to citizens of all countries of diplomatic relations. Of course, not Israel. Age between 40 to 50 years old would be eligible. But residential landed only at least 600,000, and 700,000 you get a double-story house, corner house, or a semi-D. Letter of good conduct from the relevant government authorities in the country, in the home country. So if you have worked many years in home country Ministry of Education as a teacher, now you want to come to Malaysia as an MM2H applicant, then you can get a school recommendation teacher. As a teacher, you can get a school principal recommendation. So Sarawak MM2H pass be revoked if there is any reason of criminal activity. Of course, this is any country. You go to any country, you find that their country is serious about its control, safety control, any criminal activity would be revoked. So MM2H fixed deposit amount for Sarawak is that only 150,000 to 300,000 for couples. This is very, very small compared to the 1 million. This is only 1/10 of the amount. challenge to foreigners buying properties in sub-sale is that buying a landed property in say Malaysia or even in Sarawak itself, you have to be careful on a few things. Title condition, because there are some title conditions which disallow transfer to in fact, they don't say they don't allow transfer to a foreigner, but then they will say that it's subject to approval by the state planning authority or subject to approval by the director of land and survey, or even some subject to approval by the minister. So in micro managing the situation, any foreigner buying into Sarawak, you will be getting to the land office and they will put this aside. If there is a condition that is seen in the title, they will put aside and definitely will be under scrutiny of the officer who is in charge. And a lot of this scrutiny will be on a very conservative manner, not going to fraud the law. So when that is the case, a lot of time they will choose not to approve, to stay on the safe side. And if they even approve, they will have to be careful to go down to the actual property and do inspection of the property. The reasons are many. Of course, I just mentioned maybe two. First reason is for a foreigner to come to this place, come to another country. The government is worried about issues of this person being politically sensitive to the state. For example, the person is Zakir Naik. So these are issues, political issues. Second issues is when a person comes to this country, they are concerned about terrorism. It means that the person has a permanent place in this country, buying a property recognized by this country, and in a way become a channel of siphoning terrorism activity and money. So this part they want to be very, very careful, especially with the AMLA, Anti-Money Laundering Act. So this combating of the financing of terrorism is a major thing in all countries in the world now. So these are the two major reasons why buying a property as a foreigner in a country always would attract the attention of the authorities. So inspection, they will do inspection in the house so that they know that this is not to be abused for certain types of reason. Maybe even in security purpose, satellite pictures and things like that. So these are concerns of the national security. The loan amount, usually the bank won't give because you don't have any track record in the country, you don't have any reason that credibility, creditworthiness is seen from your track record. So you are totally, as a foreigner, totally parachute here and we do not know your background. So a lot of time, local bank also will not give any loan. So even the loan also will have a collateral of fixed deposit in the bank. So that means that the buying property as a foreigner most likely is a cash purchase or periodical payment if it is a progressive construction house. Challenge to foreigner buying property, also coming to a country, spend so much money by paying for a property which eventually you may see temporarily use or may see it to be a loss if you were to go back to your own country. So startup property may be a choice because it is cheaper, more available, more choices for you to choose. And for those who are multi-billion worth, they are high asset value worth individual overseas, they wouldn't actually consider money is a problem. It's a more political issue. When they come in, the country will see them as a political reason not to allow. So progressive payment over time, I mentioned, huge amount of cash I mentioned, and then usually premium landed property, especially in places like Penang. You come in, you have the money, you buy the expensive, far high-end premium properties. So Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeding to Unlawful Activity Act 2001. And on this part, I want to highlight that registered estate agents has to do a report every year. There is a declaration to do every year, reporting to Bank Negara whether you actually involved in dealing on suspicious AMLA or this CFT, the countering the financing of terrorism. So this is the part lawyers, accountant, company secretary, trust company, banking, deposit taking institution, insurance, takaful, registered estate agent, money service, bond broker, dealer, casino, gaming, e-money operator. All these people have to comply with AMLA. They have to produce a report. They have to appoint a compliance officer to oversee the activity of AMLA in a company, and also to train their sales force, train their officers, train their workforce to know and notify the authority that if there is any suspicion on AMLA. So this is the REA as a reporting institution under Bank Negara Reporting Institution, AML-CFT, anti-money laundering, counter financing of terrorism. So here, as you see, registered estate agent. So they have to do a report every year, right? For the other things about this 10 years visa, Malaysia once had the 2002 until now 2020 halted because of the issues in Sarawak is 300,000. Conclusion: foreigners can buy, yes, it's depending on the state individual land court. Hence, state has the full authority to see whether they allow or not allow the foreigner to buy property. And I mentioned there are a few reasons that the state need to control. MM2H now and on hold because of COVID. The new one, which is to start in October 2021, has a 1-year grace period for the current MM2H order holders, and plus the new one who want to come in, the new applicant. So there is a MM2H for each state because state has the state law to govern. So Sarawak, the MM2H for property landed is 600,000 and above. Strata, there is not much of an issue. The strata usually in a bracket of 600 to 800,000. There are many, many 600 to 800,000 strata properties. And they have to have fixed deposit cash in the bank to allow to come into MM2H application. So it depends on the state also. Like in Penang and in KL, the level is higher, 1 million. There are challenges involved, of course. How to get MM2H buyers now with the higher standard and higher threshold to achieve. So for those negotiators out there who has been doing MM2H business, the new requirement may eat into your chances of getting MM2H applicants. So thank you very much for following this short chapter on foreigner. I'm Thomas Sim, PA 2066. My mobile number is display. I have a few websites to help you up if you are into real estate. Findwhere.info is a geo-linking types of listing website. Contract2you.com, ranking of property by indexes. My Real Property Online, my collection of videos and write-up, as well as my listings. Becker's Real Estate.fund is a sample agency website, and then estateagentexam.com is my platform helping the diploma in estate agency examination, those who are taking it as a self-study mode. This exam you can qualify as a professionally estate agent like I did, and also go through the training, and if you are able to pass the interview TPC, you have the e-license to operate your agency. Thank you very much. Hopefully you can revisit my videos, and the next topic area will be businesses in estate agency and platform in IT. Thank you.